All right, welcome back to Sideways Stories from Wayside School, written by Louis Sachar. This is chapter 10, and it's one of my favorites. It's about a boy named Paul. Paul had the best seat in Mrs. Jewell's class. He sat in the back of the room. It was the seat that was the farthest away from Mrs. Jewell's. Mrs. Jewell's was teaching the class about fractions. She drew a picture of a pie on the blackboard. She cut the pie into 8 pieces, and she explained that each piece was 1/8 of the pie. Paul never paid attention. He didn't see the picture of the pie. He didn't see anything. Well, he did see one thing. Actually, he saw 2 things. He saw Leslie's 2 pigtails. Leslie sat in front of Paul. She had 2 long, brown pigtails that reached all the way down to her waist. Paul saw those pigtails and a terrible urge came over him. He wanted to pull a pigtail. He wanted to wrap his fist around it, feel the hair between his fingers, and just yank. He thought it would also be fun to tie the pigtails together, or better yet, tie them to the chair. But most of all, he just wanted to pull one. Slowly, he reached out for the one on the right. No, what am I doing? He thought. I'll only get into trouble. See, Paul had it made. He sat in the back of the room. He paid no attention to anyone. No one paid any attention to him. But if he pulled the pigtail, it would be all over. Leslie would tell on him, and he'd become the center of attention. He sighed and slowly pulled his arm away. But Paul couldn't ignore those pigtails. There they were, dangling right in front of him, just begging to be pulled. He could close his eyes, but he couldn't make the pigtails disappear. He could still smell them. He could hear them. He could almost taste them. Maybe just a little tug, he thought. No, I can't, no. There they hung, right within his reach. We'll just let them hang there then, thought Paul. It would be foolish to pull one, no matter how tempting it was. None of the other children in the class pulled pigtails. Why should he? Of course, none of the other children sat behind Leslie either. It was just a simple matter of being able to think clearly. That was all. Paul thought it over and decided not to pull one. It was as simple as that. But suddenly, his arm shot forward. He grabbed Leslie's right pigtail and yanked. "Ah!" screamed Leslie. Everybody looked at her. "Paul pulled my pigtail!" she shouted. They all looked at Paul. I couldn't help it," said Paul. "You better learn to help it," said Mrs. Jewell. She wrote Paul's name on the blackboard under the word discipline. "Tell Leslie you're sorry." "I'm sorry, Leslie," said Paul. Said Leslie. Paul felt horrible. Never again would he pull another pigtail. Except there was a problem. He still wasn't satisfied. He had pulled the right one, but that wasn't enough. He wanted to pull the left one, too. It was as if he heard a little voice coming from the pigtail saying, "Pull me, Paul, pull me." "I can't," Paul said. "My name's already on the blackboard under the word discipline." "Big deal," said the pigtail. "Pull me." "No way," said Paul. "Never again." "Oh, come on, Paul. Just a little tug," the pigtail said to him. "What harm could it do?" Lots of harm," said Paul. "Leslie will scream, and I'll get in trouble again." "Boy, that's not fair," whined the pigtail. "You pulled the right one. Now it's my turn." "I know," said Paul, "but I can't." "Sure you can," said the pigtail. "Just grab me and yank." "No," said Paul, "it's not right." "Sure it is, Paul," said the pigtail. "Pigtails are meant to be pulled. That's what we're here for." "Tell that to Leslie," said Paul. "Leslie won't mind," said the pigtail. "I promise." "Yeah, I bet," said Paul, just like she didn't mind the first time. "You just didn't pull hard enough. Leslie likes us pulled real hard." "Really?" asked Paul. "Cross my heart," said the pigtail. "The harder, the better." "All right," said Paul, "but if you're lying..." "I promise," said the pigtail. Paul grabbed the left pigtail. It felt good in his hand. He pulled as hard as he could. "Ah!" screamed Leslie. Mrs. Jewell turned around. "Paul, did you pull Leslie's pigtail again?" "No," said Paul. "I pulled the other one." All the children laughed. "Are you trying to be funny?" said Mrs. Jules. "No," said Paul. "I'm trying to be fair. I can't pull one pigtail and not the other." The children laughed again. "What? Pigtails are meant to be pulled," Paul said. Mrs. Jules put a check next to Paul's name on the blackboard under the word discipline. But at last Paul was satisfied. True, his name was on the blackboard with a check next to it, but that really didn't matter. All he had to do was stay out of trouble the rest of the day and his name would be erased. It's easy to stay out of trouble when you have the best seat in class. In fact, Paul could do this every day. He could pull Leslie's pigtails twice and then stay out of trouble the rest of the day. There was nothing Leslie could do about it. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Leslie screamed again, "Ah!" Mrs. Jules circled Paul's name and sent him home early on the kindergarten bus. Nobody would believe that he hadn't pulled Leslie's pigtail again. All right, stay tuned for the next chapter.